The Behind Ears podcast crew would like to thank the following sponsors for their generous support. Do you have a little one and need a stroller for your next Disney vacation? Then Kingdom Strollers has the stroller for you. They've got a great variety of well-maintained strollers that fit any need. Go to their website and check out the City Mini Double, the City Mini Single, or any one of their wide selection of great strollers. They also have crib and bedding rental as well. During every one of my Disney vacations, I can't go a couple of minutes without seeing a happy young guest in a Kingdom stroller that is followed by a parent that knows they made a great stroller rental decision. Want to see how Kingdom Strollers can help you? Go to their website at kingdomstrollers.com. That's kingdomstrollers.com. This is Mr. Chris, and I love a good cup of coffee anytime throughout the day. In fact, I like my coffee hot or cold, brewed in my single-serve pod coffee maker or at a French press. I even like my coffee both iced and even cold brewed. Regardless of how I decide to enjoy my Java, there is only one Java that I truly enjoy, and that is Expedition Roasters. Not only do I love their traditional brews such as Route 66 Tire Fix and Dark Side Roast, I love their flavors such as Bob Slitter's Brew, Charming Chocolate Cherry, and Happily Never After. To me, their coffees are never bitter, and I enjoyed every flavor I've ever tried. And did you know that Expedition Roasters also carries some of their flavors of decaf? They're perfect for that afternoon cup. You also have to check out their different teas as well, which are great hot or iced. Behind Ears podcast listeners have 2 different coupon codes that you can use as well for when you stock up. Use EARS20 for 20% off that first order. Returning customers can use EARS10 for 10% off subsequent orders as well. When you're ready to enjoy the best in pop culture-inspired coffee and teas, check out expeditionroasters.com. Are you looking for a travel agent who has over 20 years of experience to take care of your Walt Disney World vacation, or your Disneyland vacation, or your Disney Cruise Line vacation, or even those non-Disney vacations? Contact Mickey Adventures by Brandy. Her services are fee-free, and she can take care of all the details for you. You know, things like ADRs and fast passes for you as well. Mention the show and get a Disney gift card if you book a 3-night or longer Disney vacation with park tickets with her. Contact Brandy at mickeyadventures.com. That's Brandi at mickeyadventures.com, or give her a call at 774-400-3541. To you live from our studios on the East Coast and in the Midwest, it's the Behind Ears podcast, because everybody does Disney differently. Hey everybody, it's Mr. Chris. How's everybody doing this evening? Welcome to our I almost said Tuesday night edition. I have got to remember that this is not Tuesday night anymore. My gosh, you know what? You do something for 3 years in a row, eventually you're going to get stuck in that rut, you know, that you kind of think, it's still Tuesday. No, it's Monday. And this is the best part about a Monday, right? I mean, you're coming back, especially after the time change and everything else like that. It's really one of those things, quite honestly. You know, you don't really get used to this whole thing. I want to say hello to everybody. That's in our chat room today, either over at the Behind Ears Podcast Facebook page or over on our YouTube channel. Greetings and salutations to everybody. All right. So, kind of want to start off tonight with basically a message from the mailbag. And I got this message earlier today. What's really cool is I asked her if it was cool for me to share this on the show. And let me go ahead and just get right into it, right? Let's have some good discussion on this. So Deanna wrote me earlier. She's like, my family's heading to Walt Disney World towards the end of January. It's my husband, myself, and our 2 children, a 3-year-old and 1-year-old. So this will be the first time that we're paying for our daughter. And she said, and we did the quick service dining plan this past March when we were there for our kids' birthdays. We only had to pay for her husband and herself. We're not really interested in doing any of the other dining plans yet with our young kiddos, so we'd only be interested in the quick serve plan. What are your thoughts? I'm for it, but my husband's against it. And then continuing on, basically, let me hit my escape key. There it is. Oh, wrong button, Chris. You think I know how to use email. And she's like, so in our trip, in our March trip earlier this year, our son was still nursing, so he didn't eat anything from Disney. Now, both of our kids are not huge eaters all the time, but they can eat when they are hungry and eat pretty good. None of us actually eat a lot of food, especially when we're having fun and keeping busy. We did bring breakfast foods last trip, and we did not have to worry about breakfast in the parks. One thing that she also mentioned was that the last time on her last trip, let me try it again. On their last trip, they ended up with having to use a lot of gosh, I really can't talk tonight. What is going on? She said, we ended up using a lot of snack credits on their last day. That's actually a key point here, ladies and gentlemen. And so she's asking for opinions. So this is what I told her. And I told her this in an email. I thought I'd share it here with everybody here because, quite honestly, this is kind of one of those dilemmas. You see, I used to be a fan of the dining plan under most circumstances. And now it's getting to a point where the dining plan is more of a tool. And you have to know when it's really worthy in using it. In this case, I'm not hearing a lot of things like big eaters. I'm hearing things like the last time they did it, they had a ton of snack credits left. I'm also hearing, kids that are younger. And at the same time, they're on the fence. Okay. So these are some of the things that I mentioned. Things like, you have to first off know your traveling party. If you're not big eaters, and in this case, if you like to do, breakfast in the room or even take a portable breakfast into the parks, it may be one of those cases where you don't do the dining plan. Now, allow me to elaborate on this because it's one of those cases where you have to know when you're going to get value out of prepaying for meals, even and especially with kids, since they're only interested in a quick service dining plan. We're taking out of the equation things like a dining plan with character meals and so on and so forth. We're also talking about one young child and, one child they're going to have to pay for out of pocket anyway. And I basically said, don't do the dining plan because you need some of that extra flexibility, especially with young kids. You're also at that point where it doesn't sound like everybody's a big eater. That makes a big difference when trying to get your value back. And at the same time, the snacks. Now think about this. Being that they've raised the prices on some snacks, those snack credits can go from $5 to $6 a piece now. That's a bigger chunk. Before we only used to think there was like $5 maximum. Now it's like an extra buck, an extra 20% of extra value. And in my case, if you leave a couple of those dining credits sitting on the table, so to speak, not dining credits, but the snack credits sitting on the table, so to speak, and you have to take back a Mickey Rice Krispie treat or something like that, hey, that's okay. But I have seen it more often than once, actually more often than several times, where all of a sudden you have somebody that's at the gift shop or the food court stacking up on Rice Krispie treats. And we're talking, tons of these things or tons of prepackaged candy or snacks or this, that, and the other, because they're trying to use those snack credits. You have to stop and say to yourself that if you're more apt to have a ton of snack credits, you're probably not going to get a good value out of the dining plan in general. So I told her to skip it. Flexibility, the ability to not necessarily eat so much. And in general, I think you're going to save money. I really think you're going to save money, Deanna. And I hope that you're able to take, some of that information and possibly talk it over with your husband and kind of get an idea of, what you're going to need to set aside for dining and possibly even use gift cards that you can get discounted at, many different places. That's how some people save money. Besides, if you don't use it for meals and everything else, you're going to be able to use it for other things. You're going to be able to use it for gifts or paying down a bill or anything else like that, anything that's out of pocket. So you kind of have to take that into consideration. And taking into consideration everybody who is in the room that, has a ticket, so to speak, has to be on the dining plan. Your littlest one doesn't need it. Or I should say your littlest one won't be able to be on the dining plan anyway. So it would just be your oldest child and the 2 adults. So just some things to take into consideration. So I really hope that helps out, Deanna. And by all means, why don't you come back to us after your trip? Let us know how it worked out for you. Because everybody does Disney differently, which is our motto around here. And we're really hoping that this is something that worked out for you. And if it doesn't work out for you, tell us what you think would have been better, especially if you did the dining plan. And quite honestly, that invitation is open to all of our listeners. We'd love to be able to answer your questions. We would love to be able to help you out and give you our 2 cents. And at the same time, come back and let us know how we did. Sometimes I'll be honest with you. Every once in a while, we come up with an idea. Someone tries it out and said, you know what, it didn't quite work as expected, and they tell us why. We'd love to hear those differing experiences, because quite honestly, what works for us may not work for somebody else, but we'd love to hear those experiences. All right. So tonight, something else I want to talk about. So I debated long and hard whether or not I was even going to say anything about this. And I want everybody to stick around and stick with me for this, okay? And the reason why I say it is because you're going to say, oh, this isn't very magical. I don't really want to hear you guys talk about this, and so on and so forth. And I get it. And that's why I'm saying I debated this. Something's been going around the internet, all around Facebook groups for the past couple days about family from overseas basically having some horrible room experiences. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of the details because some of the details really sound way out there. I'm going to be really honest with you. Some of the details don't seem complete. And if you dig into some of the articles that are out there, it sounds like Disney did everything in their power to be able to make it up to this particular family. But here's the thing. Not just once, but multiple times for the past several years. So I'm not trying to rag on anybody. I'm not trying to rip on anybody. You guys all know me by now. That's not my style. I don't do that sort of thing. But do you know that old adage of if it sounds too good to be true, then chances are it is? Same thing goes that if it sounds too bad to be true, chances are it is. And the pictures that I saw in some of the articles, I thought to myself, some of it's probably legit. I'll give you that. But then I really thought to myself, and I saw some of the pictures and the descriptions especially about things like wiring being exposed and things like that. And I found it very, very, very hard to believe. Things like outlets with wiring showing and stuff like that. You know why one of the first things I thought that really was hard to believe? Try to find an outlet in any Walt Disney room, especially in like the values are moderates. Tell me how hard it is to find an outlet to plug your phone in at times. It's not a rip on Disney. That was the design of some of these buildings back in the day. You didn't have a whole bunch of things to plug in. And one of the pictures showed just a whole bunch of exposed wiring. I'm like, there's no way. There's just no way that could have happened. Now, I'm not saying that Disney doesn't make mistakes once in a while. Because let's face it, we've all probably had some bad room experiences. I've recently told everybody about my trip back in July. There were some issues with our bathroom at Old Key West, a room that was recently renovated. And I nicely went to the front desk. I told them about it. And when I came back, things were taken care of again. So I don't understand why in the world that, people go nuts over some of these things. And the thing is, it's been shared and shared over and over and over again, but not a lot of people have stopped and said to themselves, should I even share this? Because doesn't it sound too out there? Doesn't it sound a little bit unbelievable? So this is where you guys come in. This is where our live audience comes into play at times. What do you think about some of the things that you see out there on the internet, out there in Facebook? Are we really coming to a point right now where shouldn't we start to really question some of the things that are out there? If it sounds too grievous to be true, shouldn't we stop and think about whether or not we should really share it? Now, as I said, I gave this a lot of thought, and I'm not saying this to be negative or anything else like that. I'm really trying to put some deep thought into this because I'm something of an advocate, somewhat of an advocate that really likes to be able to, I really like to stick to facts. Okay. I'm not a very abstract person. I do have some great abstract thought about a lot of different things, but when it comes to trying to figure out what the deal is on something, especially when it comes to problem solving of sorts, I am a fact-based person. And even like what Mary mentions here really also caught my attention. She's like, did you see something in an article about a 2-hour bus ride? She said, that made me question the whole article. And at the same time, not saying that Disney, as I said earlier, I'm not saying that Disney hasn't had their fair share. Even Nicole says, after some of the stuff I've experienced at Disney, yes, it does sound believable. But certainly not typical. Now, it's interesting that there were other articles that were stating that this particular couple has come back to Disney multiple times over the past several years. And it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was something that it's happened more than one time. Now, I don't know about you. I expect a few things out of my room. I want a clean room. I want a comfortable room. I want a room where the AC works, that the mattress is actually comfortable. Toilet flushes, the shower drains, and the sink works. Oh, it would also be good if the TV works as well. Now, I know there's going to be some dust here and there. I know that there's probably going to be some hard to reach places. I do check for things like bed bugs, but that's because I'm a traveler. I've traveled and have stayed in hotels way more than the average person because of my work. And I do expect things to actually be in good working order. A couple of the items that was mentioned in this article, I can understand happening one at a time. Some of these things seem to have happened cascading, so to speak. And at the same time, again, I am not trying to sound like a fanboy because I know that Disney has done, some things to the point where, or not done as the case may be, where, a person like Nicole, and I will say, I know Nicole personally. I trust Nicole's opinion. I valued Nicole's opinion. And, she's probably seen some things too. And she travels down there often. But, Linda mentions, she thinks it's over the top. It's one of those cases. And then you have people like Brian. This is kind of a way I see it too. Is it possible? Sure. 2 rooms I find hard to believe, he says. Them contacting the press, scamming for an upgrade. It kind of makes you wonder a little bit, right? You see, and so it's one of those cases where what do we do? What do we do when we see something like that? Versus also, what do we do when we experience something like that? Here's my take. I didn't go out and tweet or post on Facebook that my shower drain wouldn't drain at Old Key West. It wasn't important enough. I wasn't expecting points back. I wasn't expecting anything extra. I wasn't expecting magic. I wasn't expecting fast passes. I just wanted I wanted to make sure that I wasn't feeling like I'm in a submarine that's been hit and water all over the place while I'm trying to take a shower. And so, it's one of those cases. What do you do? And quite honestly, it's hard to believe when you have some of those things happen. Some of the things just sound too crazy. It doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. It just means that it just seems odd. It's kind of interesting. Like Mary, I think, follows a lot of the same kind of travel tips that I think of as well. She says, the first thing I do is check the room before I even let Steve or her daughter come in. She makes them wait in the hallway. Believe it or not, I kind of do this too. I do it mainly to take pictures of the room when it's pristine. But I also make sure I take pictures of the room, see how it goes, see what it is. I look at the different things. I just want to make sure everything's cool. It's just one of those cases. Now, Gordon does say, hey, I have a pick. I took a hole in the ground in a resort courtyard with wires hanging out of it and tools all around with no maintenance worker anywhere. And you want to know something? There's a great example. A great example of somebody goofed up. That somebody obviously made a mistake in judgment and had an external safety failure, in my opinion. And it happens. And I am almost positive that if someone reported that, it would have been taken care of instantaneously. But at the same time, yes, I probably would have taken a picture too, to be honest with you, Gordon. But I'm sure it was a minor compared to a lot of other things. Carol mentions here, there was a man complaining about something in front of me in the mine about a bus. I'm sorry, I'm reading this wrong. Either that or I'm just not reading right. There was a man complaining about something in front of me in the mine about a bus leaving them or something like that. And the lady gave him 3 free tickets for his family that does not expire. So it must have been bad to give that for whatever he went through. And sometimes you just got to wonder, what? There are people that are still kind of joking about the idea that they think that if you're going to get stuck on the Skyliner, that they're automatically going to get free tickets. It's like bad precedent set in a way. And they were almost hoping that they got stuck on a Skyliner just so they can get something. It was one of those things. Jerry mentioned, hey, check for mold on the shampoo and the conditioner pumps in the shower. Some aren't clean when they refill them and mold is growing. Fortunately, I've not seen that. And to tell you the truth, even in non-Disney hotels, I have been fortunate enough to not see that sort of thing happen. And I do check. I will admit. I don't mind the pumps. I'm going to tell you that right now. One of the few that probably don't. I don't mind them. Don't mind them at all. But I do check to make sure that things are not growing accordingly. So it's one of those cases where I do. Okay, this is perfect. And Nicole basically says it. I've said it before. I'll say it again. You just bring the situation to the resort's attention and give them a chance to resolve it first. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Give people a chance to make it right. That's it. Give people a chance to make it right. But at the same time, don't be looking for something. That's just my 2 cents. Now, granted, if there was something that really screwed something up, I'll take fast passes. You know, you want to, one time I walked into my room that they said was all ready to go and clean and so on and so forth, and it still had people's stuff in it. I shut the door, walked back to the front desk, and they're like, you know what? We're really sorry about that. We screwed up. They gave me $100 room credit. I didn't ask for it, but they gave it to me. I had to wait another couple hours for my room. Not really a big deal. Wouldn't have been a big deal, but you just got to give them a chance. Regardless of what the problem is. Is it housekeeping? Let them clean the room again. Is it something mechanical? Give them a chance to let it be fixed while you're out at the parks. Is it, something with the staff? You know what? Bring it up to them. Let them know that a staff member was less than friendly. Cast member, staff member. I'm saying staff member because I was thinking outside of Disney Hotel there for a second. But make sure it's something that happened to you and not somebody else. It's one of those cases where there are things that happen, but how we react to it is a little different. Chris mentions, can't say anything about hotel rooms because I've never stayed at Disney Hotel. He's a local, by the way. I will say that the All-Star rooms look very outdated, but still clean. Yeah, they're outdated. They need to be refurbed, and they are in the process of being refurbed, Chris. I'll let you know that right now. And they are still clean. Chris knows my feeling because he hung out at All-Star Music with Danny and I a little bit. So he knew exactly, and we thought the same thing. Rooms are in need of refurb, and some of them were being refurbed while we were there. He goes, as far as the parks go, I've noticed more and more lately that garbage has been overflowing and bathrooms have been worse than some gas stations. Not saying they weren't messed up right after being cleaned, though. And you know what? I hate to say this. You're absolutely right, Chris. There are some things that really need to be tended to quicker, especially in the summertime. Garbage is one of them. The bathrooms are really hard to deal with, I think at least, because I have seen people act horribly in the restrooms. Like, why? Were you really taught how to act that way in the restrooms like that? I was like, you got to be kidding me. It's really nuts. Again, I'm not trying to sound like I'm venting here or anything like that, but I also think about the guests that help or hinder the guest experience. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's part of the problem. Overflowing garbage cans. Yeah, those are things that have to be taken care of. At the same time, did someone actually go up to a cast member and say, hey, by the way, just wanted to let you know, garbage is full over there? Sometimes things happen. Sometimes how you react to it, again, is the best way of doing it. So Nicole is also going back to the room. She's like, you know what? It's easier to check the room and switch early in your arrival. They usually get in the middle of the night after driving all day and are exhausted. So minor things get reported the next day. Very true, Nicole. I feel that same way too. So it's one of those cases where none of this, I think, is being critical to the cast members that are there because they're human. I think that when it comes to the cast and the show, the guests, the audience play just as an important of a role. I really truly believe that. And here's an example. Here's an example of a story that, and I'm Brian, hope you understand. I'm going to throw this up there because this is one of those examples of a story that you just can't believe it. I heard a story of a bus driver. He says stopping at the gas station to get beer before they closed because it was his last ride and couldn't get there in time. Really? Does that sound even closely remote to be true? Really? First off, buses have GPS. They know when to go off route and stuff like that. I highly doubt even anything would even become of something like that. Especially it's like, I heard a story about, again, I believe Brian did hear a story. Question whether or not the person telling the story was telling the truth. That's my whole thing. But I don't, hey, I'm not perfect as a guest either. I know I'm not. I try to be the best guest I possibly can be. So I try to make sure that my messes are cleaned up. I try to make sure that when I leave a room for housekeeping to come in, that my stuff is out of the way. I try to make sure I don't make a mess in the first place. Even like, because I'm a DVC member and I stay most of the time, probably 95% of my time, I stay at DVC resorts. If I make a mess, they have a vacuum cleaner in the room in the DVC resorts. I'm breaking out the vacuum cleaner. I'm making sure whatever mess I made is cleaned up. That's just, to me, that was common sense. And so, it's one of those cases where, as Jennifer put, everything doesn't need to be blasted on Facebook. Very true. Nobody's perfect. And at the same time, if you see something, say something. That's why I'm saying I can't believe some of these stories. And again, I don't think I just have the Disney blinders on. That's not the case. I stay at Hilton resorts if I don't stay at a Disney, hotel. And it is just one of those cases where I tend to, that's where I stay when I travel a lot. And I stay there because that's what I like. I've had my problems at those hotels as well. There was a time where, I stayed at a suite. One of the two hotels didn't work well, or one of the TVs did not work well. I brought it up to the front desk. They're like, "Oh, we'll send someone up to fix it." I'm like, it's not really important. Just for the next person. And it's one of those cases where I didn't blast it. I just try to tell somebody. And by the way, Brian did confirm, I hear a lot of stories. That one makes me chuckle. I like what Jerry has to say. She says, I always tell people when someone takes the extra effort to give excellent service or to make something right, employees need to be recognized when they do a great job, because employers usually don't tell them. Let alone, I'm going to add this a little bit here, Jerry. I don't think a lot of guests take the time to say thank you through some recognition. Do the hashtag, gosh, I want to say cast compliment. Sorry, had a little brain stop there. And if you're a Twitter user, you do it at WDW Today. Go to guest services. Let them know. If you tell a person where the name of the cast member, where and what time, they'll figure it out. They'll definitely figure it out, and they will get recognized. And when they are recognized, that is a good thing. It gets put in their file and so on and so forth. Kylie is a former college program cast member. She says, I've had guests complain that another cast member walked past trash on the ground, and I said to them, they may not have seen it, but I will take care of it. Thank you for telling me. That's a great example, Kylie. You as a cast member are going to do something right, going to make it right, even if it isn't necessarily your job. And sometimes cast members don't see it. You know what? That happens. There's a lot of things that happen. A lot of things that happen we don't necessarily know about. Anna recognizes the fact that people over-exaggerate on their posts. Absolutely. It's really crazy. Now, Nicole mentions, I can honestly say, and I travel a lot and all over, that Disney is the only place I don't get action and remediation of a situation from. Every time I've had something negative happen at Disney, it wasn't resolved or acknowledged. All our hotels have acted quickly to fix it and make us happy. This is the one place Disney is currently lacking, and it certainly didn't used to be that way. But I still won't publicly trash them. on my page or a post. It seems petty to do so. Now, I know you do travel a lot, Nicole. And I'm really sorry to hear that. And I think, if nothing else, I think that's a great example of if something doesn't get done right, we use the term escalation. Now, it sounds horrible because that sounds like something's really bad's going to happen. In my business, I tell my team this: if you're doing something right and you get escalated, don't worry about it. If you're doing something wrong and get escalated, worry about it. And what I always tell people about that is, you know what? If you don't get the satisfaction you need, or I should say, if you don't get the satisfaction you deserve, talk to somebody else about it. Don't talk to just the person behind the desk. Ask to see a manager, ask to see a supervisor. And I'm pretty sure, I'm willing to bet, even before even reading one more comment, someone like Nicole has done that very thing. And I think it goes even beyond the rooms. I'm talking the restaurants and everything else like that, transportation, no matter what. If you have a legit reason to bring it up and you don't think it's getting resolved properly, talk to somebody else. Politely and kindly and professionally ask to see somebody else that can possibly help it. That's my biggest thing. And again, I know that someone like Nicole, who does travel a lot, probably has had just some really bad experiences. And I'm sorry about that. I really am. Sometimes it's one of those things where I have had to ask for supervisors at times. Again, I don't normally talk about it because it's usually not worth being talked about. But it's also one of those cases where, I kind of save it for the last resort. No pun intended. Brian brings up another good question, or good point. He says some resorts are much better than others. It's not consistent with guest service between them. I can't disagree with that one iota. Brian brings up a very good point with that because, first off, I don't expect the same level of service staying at All Star Music versus staying at the Grand Floridian. Although I will say this, I had a really good experience at All Star Music. I've never stayed at All Star Music before. I was very impressed by the resort. I was impressed about how clean it was. I had a good experience with every cast member that was there. The food court was good. It was more than adequate. Never had a problem. Grand Floridian, I've also stayed at, never had a problem, and their service was very, very good. Probably the only place I've actually had a problem with some things, and this was, seriously, this was 15 years ago, was Wilderness Lodge. When I'm talking about expressly about dealing with cast members. But overall, you do run into some winners. I say it sarcastically. Most of them are very magical. And, do reach out to management even when something's good. It's as simple as that. Now, here's something Chris mentions, and I think this caught my eye for a big reason. He's like, I think they're starting not to give so much away anymore when people have things go wrong because everybody posts what they get, especially if it's something big. I think social media has changed the way that people try to resolve problems. And unfortunately, I think that it's changed it for the worst because everybody's expecting what another person got. It is just one of those things. I don't believe it. I don't believe that social media doesn't play a role in that. So it's an interesting way. It's an interesting way of looking at it. Sorry for the pausing. I'm kind of thinking and talking about this at the same time. So I'm scrolling through some more of the comments as well. Jamie actually makes a good comment. I think the more you travel, you just see more of that type of service. Agree. If you see it, take it to someone. Escalation done correctly works most of the time in his experience. And also at the same time, Gordon mentions you should expect the same level of service from the front desk no matter where you stay. Yes, I expect to be greeted politely and friendly. I expect to be able to have a transaction go smoothly as possible. I expect my billing to be correct the first time. And I expect my magic bands to work. I know it sounds silly, but I expect my magic bands to actually work. So it's one of those things. Let's see. I'm kind of, you know what? I'm going to throw this up here. This is a great example of how some cast members really do make a difference for the best. Carrie mentions, I used a minivan on my birthday. And I was chatting with the driver and I told him where friends were taking me to lunch at the Magic Kingdom. When I was paying, money fell out of my wallet. The driver showed up later at the restaurant to return the money. I went to guest services so he would be recognized. Perfect example, my friend. Sorry about that. Perfect example of a cast member doing what a cast member should do. A great example for other cast members. So I'm kind of pausing here for a minute. And again, I hope everybody understands something. We normally talk about a lot of fun, happy things. And I was trying to hold on to this until Danny was available. But I wanted to say something about it because it's been kind of nagging at me, not just about this particular incident, but just in general. I see way more posts these days about issues, things that didn't happen, things that weren't necessarily magical. I mean, I wish I can make up a very valid statistic about who, what, where, and when. How often do we see the negatives versus the positives? I am not one to say, hey, you know what? Disney is absolutely perfect. I've said that before. I'll say it again. Right now, all I got to say is there are still many, many cast members that never get recognized for doing a great job. And maybe it's time that we make the difference. Maybe we're the ones that have to go up to a cast member and say thank you. Doesn't have to be a big whoop-de-doo of a deal, just a simple thank you. I think it makes a difference in this world to simply say thank you. Whether or not it's leaving a nice personal note with a tip for mousekeeping, whether or not, or I actually leave messages in the folio thing for table service restaurants. I'll write a note on the either on the back of a business card or on the receipt that I leave behind. I'll write it on the back and I'll flip it over so they see it with a big thanks. And I make sure I get the name and do a cast compliment that way as well. If I see somebody that looks like a manager or a supervisor walking out of a restaurant and I had an excellent time, I make sure I say something about it. You just gotta, sometimes you just have to give them a little bit of love too, maybe show them a little bit of pixie dust and magic through just a smile. Because you know what? The guest experience obviously would be different without us, the guest. But the guest experience could be very different because of us, the guest. Kylie says I started making it a point to give out at least one cast compliment every day that I go to a park. Too often the positivity doesn't get spread enough. Great example, my friend. I'll save that. Sorry, Jamie, I'm going to save that comment for a minute. Brunette makes the comment, I'm so happy to be able to go, so I don't even have time for that negativity. I totally agree. My biggest take on this is probably more along the lines of two things. I'm looking at this from the angle of integrity in what people post, telling the story as it really is, thinking before you actually post, but also really trying to get problems resolved before they become postable. Now, I realize I am just one podcaster sitting here telling people about that. I'm one podcaster that's asking his audience to try to strive to do better along those lines of cast compliments, as well as providing appropriate constructive feedback to make your vacations more magical. And I like to think that if you've been listening to us for any period of time, you know exactly where I'm coming from. You know where my heart is. You know what I mean. I don't necessarily mean that in any negative connotation. I am not criticizing anybody. But at the same time, I'd like to think that we have a good amount of people that watch and listen to this show. And I think that we can actually make a difference by spreading the positiveness while at the same time getting the problems worked out without making them a public issue. Does that make sense? Does that make more sense? Or am I just living in a pipe dream? I'd like to think that we can actually make a difference in that way. I'm not trying to get all touchy-feely about that sort of thing. I'm not trying to make it an emotional plea. But I do think that we could be the example for other guests. And hopefully the positiveness will be contagious. I do believe truly that people such as Disney and Universal, for that matter, as well as any major hotel chain, any minor hotel chain for that matter, would love to get constructive criticism when it's actually constructive. Go in there with both barrels blazing, you put people on the defensive. And that's when I think, most problems don't get resolved. I mean, there are times where you can be the nicest person in the world and stuff still happens. Stuff still doesn't get resolved. I get it. But I do think that we can actually make a difference. And I hope everybody here understands that as well. As I say, we get thousands of people listening to the show every week. It'd be really cool if we can be the catalyst across a bunch of Facebook groups. I'm sure we watch or listen to a lot of other people or read a lot of other things. I bet you any money we can do it. Not by saying that we think other people are crazy for what they've reported, but to try to maybe not necessarily post something if it seems too crazy. Maybe do some of our own version of fact checking. I don't know. I appreciate the vote of confidence that Jamie says. I appreciate that. He says, hey, that makes perfect sense, Mr. Chris. Chris, our local communications director, he basically says here, I've done probably 15 or 20 cast compliments in the past 6 months. It's as easy as taking a picture of their name tag and opening Twitter real quick. I always call out cast members that remind me of what I call hashtag Walt-like. That's awesome. I like that. I'm going to have to use that myself. Things that would make Walt smile. I say we get that Twitter hashtag trending, or even use it within Instagram. You can also use it within Facebook. I think that's a fabulous hashtag, Chris. Let's make that happen. Hashtag Walt like. I love it. He also continues to say, hey, I met someone on Saturday that really made me step back and really enjoy Disney even more than I already did. Disney is the most magical place on earth, no matter what goes wrong. Sometimes they truly try to make everyone's vacation experience priceless. Brunette's rising to the challenge, in my opinion. She's saying, I'm going to make sure that I give more compliments next time I go. I think that's cool. Gordon mentions, and this is very sad, a sad example, but still one that I think provides a good example of Disney magic. He says, we had to fly out unexpectedly due to a death in the family. And Riverside's front desk was absolutely amazing and took care of everything, including flights and making our passes valid forever. You know what? That's something that Gordon didn't ask for. Sometimes the magic comes when you're least expecting it. So maybe that's the case. Maybe we need to be a little bit more Walt-like. I love that hashtag idea, Chris. I really do. Hashtag Walt life. Let's make that trend. Can you make that trend in everything that you do? Can you make that trend during your next vacation? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is, make it happen. I think that is pretty epic. I love it. I absolutely love it. And sometimes Stephen mentions some guest today. He saw some guests today with this high and mighty attitude that Disney owes them since they believe they paid the bills. That person needs a dose of magic to make them hashtag Walt-like. That's ridiculous. Kylie basically is already going to do it. Whoop, I'm sorry. Wait, there we go. Sorry. She said, I am looking forward to returning to Disney as a cast member and helping as the best I can with everyone. I aspire to be hashtag Walt-like. It's the least I can do for the company that's meant so much to me. I think that's epic, Kylie. You go and do the absolute best. And you know what? If you feel comfortable doing so, you let everybody know here in the show where they can find you and check out the Walt Night list. I think that's awesome. Bonnie's at the Magic Kingdom. Bonnie, hello. I hope you're having a great time. And maybe you can be the first person to find a magical cast member and tell them thank you for being Walt-like. That is awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to kind of end it here a few minutes early. But it's one of those cases where I know that it sounds like I'm kind of rambling tonight. I apologize right now if for some reason that's the case. I know that Disney is not perfect. I've had more than my fair share of perfect vacations. I've had my share of just vacations. Maybe I'm just glad I went on vacation. When I was a kid, I remember 4 or 5 times that I went on vacation with my family. And the last time I went on vacation with my family was 1983. Don't ask me how I remember that, but I remember it was 1983. We went to our favorite spot, Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. Nope, wasn't Disney. And we rented a part of a duplex just north of Mercer's Pier, right next to the big Holiday Inn. We met some great people there. Next door to us, we became lifelong friends, my family and their families. The fact of the matter is that no matter what, even if it's a Disney vacation or not a vacation, I was happy to go on vacation. I was still sad when the vacation ended. But at the same time, I was glad I had those times with my family. Even as a kid on the receiving end of the vacation, I didn't worry about a lot of it. That was my dad's job. And now, as a parent, I understand it. So I'll tell you right now, that's kind of interesting. Kind of the tide has turned a little bit. I'm now the dad. I want to make sure my family has the most epic vacation ever. And regardless of where it is, no matter what we do, I realize I'm the one that sets the tone. I'm the one that sets the tone to make sure my kids have a great vacation. And my wife too. She's important. So I'll tell you what. You know, it's one of those cases. I love also what Nicole has to say sometimes. What would Walt want? That's a little harder to say, but I like it just nonetheless. Sometimes we have to think about that too. Sometimes, and I have to agree with what Gordon has to say as well, they need to take a step back and go back to their roots. So I'll tell you what, let's leave it at that. Let's get back to our roots as guests. Let's go back there. Let's have an epic time. Let's have a magical time. Let's make it magical for the cast members that serve us and for the guests that stand up next to us in line. Let's spread that. Let's do that. Yeah, we can talk about some of the crap that happens once in a while. But next time, let's talk about the epicness. Let's talk about the magic. And maybe that's what we're going to talk about on Wednesday. Come prepared with those stories. Shall you? I hope you join me then. Because I think if we do something like that, it's just going to balance it out. But I really enjoyed talking with everybody tonight. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to hit this button right here. You heard the show, and we hope you want more. Well, feel free to join us over at our social media platforms. Instagram and our Facebook page can be found at Behind the Ears Podcast. Our webpage is behindtheearspodcast.net, and our email is behindtheearspodcast@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is @BehindTheEarsPC. And come and join the conversation about all things Disney over at the WDW community page. Don't forget to rate and review the show over at iTunes or Apple Podcasts, as it really helps us get the word out about the show. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or the Podbean app. Also, you can listen to us on Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and via Alexa and Google Home. All right, everybody. Hey, thanks a lot for joining me tonight. Danny is planning on being back on Wednesday. He was on a special assignment tonight. He had to take care of something important to him. And I hope that he's able to come back on Wednesday. I know he's going to come back on Wednesday. What am I talking about? But you know what? Again, sometimes we just have to have a show here that really kind of makes us think about things. I'm glad that you were able to join me. Had some great conversation. I hope you tell someone else about the show. Tell someone else that, you know what? We keep it real here. We don't always talk about the great things that happen. We try to pick out the problem, pick apart the problems. We try to help people. We try to help each other out. I hope until we meet again and we keep the whole, Walt-like hashtag in our minds and everything we do. Let's make that happen. All right. Well, until we meet again, I hope everybody has an absolutely magical day. Take care. Okay. For those of you who are still here, the recorder is off. So let's talk here for a minute because I want you guys to stick around. Here's the deal. So, as some of you have probably heard, either through one of the episodes, a replay, watched it or saw it over at the WDW community page, over on the Behind the Ears Podcast Facebook page, you've probably seen stuff dropped in the community page by Chris and myself and so on and so forth. We, as in the Behind Yours podcast team, we are doing the Challenge for Hope for Give Kids the World Village, and it's a 5K event, and it's one of the few times that they actually open up the village to the public, so to speak. And it's a 5K to basically help raise money for the village. Now, the cool part is that Chris is going to be down there in person, which is really cool. Jess and I are going to run the 5K virtually. And so far, we have raised something like $350 out of a $500 goal. Here's the thing. We would really love to blow away that $500 goal. Now, I know that we ask this. This is the only time we ever ask anybody to consider anything. We, as I said, we don't necessarily plug our merch because we're fortunate enough to have our corporate sponsors, such as Kingdom Strollers, Expedition Roasters, and Mickey Adventures by Brandy. We're really thankful for them. Give them a try. Unshameless plug. But we do ask that if you would be so kind as to consider going over to our support page and consider donating $10. I mean, what is $10? I mean, $10 is like what? Maybe just a little bit more than you can get a McDonald's number one with extra sauce and no pickle. One of those things. Maybe it's you don't go out to lunch one day for a month. The whole month, you're not going to go out to lunch one day. You're going to brown bag it. Maybe it means that you do something a little bit different for dinner one night, and you save $10, and you donate it to Give Kids World. Let me tell you something about this place. As much as I was sincere about tonight's episode, it is a passion of every member of the Behind Ears podcast team to help Give Kids the World however we can. And I know we raised a good chunk of money this past year during our marathon show, and we're really hoping to do it again this coming up spring. But this is something we've never done before. And it's going to be kind of interesting because like Jess and I are planning on live streaming both of us running our virtual events at the same time. It's going to be kind of funny because technically I'm going to be going up someone who is a mega marathon runner. Yeah, me. Kind of against Jess. She said she's going to take it easy on me. Yeah. She's going to probably think that I'm going so slow. If I was going any slower, I'd be going backwards. By the way, if you didn't recognize where that quote came from, go take a look at Cranium Command video somewhere, if you know what I mean. So, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be setting that up. And I'd love it if you guys would actually just take a moment to possibly make a donation. Make a donation of $10 or more. You're going to get a Behind Ears podcast bumper sticker. Simple as that. It's kind of cool. Haven't passed them out yet. They're pretty much haven't been put in circulation. Donate $25 or more, and you're going to get an entry for one of, I think, 6 awesome custom Behind Ears podcast mugs that feature photos from either Chris or myself. $50 gets you 3 entries to that same giveaway. $100 or more, you're getting a mug and you're getting a bumper sticker. And if basically everybody gets a bumper sticker that donates $10 or more. I think that's really cool. Would you guys be so kind to seriously consider this? I really honestly think this is an extraordinarily magical place. And I think it is one of those cases where it really truly helps people, helps families. It helps kids put away all their worries and concerns for 1 week so they can have a great vacation. We're concerned about whether or not trash is overflowing in a park trash bin. Some of these parents have a lot more to worry about, and they just want their kid to be normal for one day. Give Kids the World helps make that a reality. It's a pretty big magic trick in my book. I hope you guys would consider it. I hope you guys would please consider it. And as I said, Chris is waking up there and waking up early. He's getting up on a 4 a.m. on a day off to do this event. And it's really cool. And he said he'd wake up at 1 a.m. to do it. And also Nicole brings up something I'm really glad thanks for bringing this up, my friend. She's like, the Indie Disney meet raised more than originally thought, $57,000. And I saw the check presentation. That was just absolutely fabulous. And this group was a part of that. How is that? How awesome is that? You guys helped make some of that happen. Now I hope you can make a little bit more happen. Nicole, you're joining, or you're running virtually too. That is like so cool. In fact, I'll tell you what. Hit me up on the side, my dear. I got a question for you. We can have some fun with this. So yeah, I hope you guys would do that for me. You guys want to see the bumper sticker? You guys want to see it? I haven't shown really many people about this bumper sticker. You want to see the bumper sticker? Give me a oh yeah if you want to see the bumper sticker. Come on, give me an oh yeah. Gotta let the Kool-Aid guy. Oh yeah. I could be the Kool-Aid guy. I guess I'd be orange flavored. Check this out. It's like, I'm just like, it's like orange. You want to see the bumper stickers? I know you do. I know you do. Oh yeah. Check it out. It's like 3.5 inches by 7 inches. It's like a perfect rectangle. $10 or more. All y'all get one of these. Simple as that. Get you one of these. How's that? It gets one of these. Oh yeah. I haven't passed any of these out. Except for 2 people. Or I should say, 2 people. Because I've owed him swag for years. I got to put one on my car too. So, hope you guys are all with me. If you can't, hey, I understand it. I totally get it. We all have certain decisions to make. Sometimes we just don't have it. I hope you consider doing it though. Hope you consider doing it. And I'm going to go ahead and post that back up there. Hope you consider doing that before Saturday. We're also going to set up something, as I said, an event where you can watch us run virtually. It should be quite fun. Because let's face it, I'm a big guy, and I hope you guys get a bunch of entertainment watching me trying to run. It's going to be hilarious. It's not going to be fun in a way. So, oh yeah. I expect there to be a lot of huffing and puffing. And a whole bunch of people calling 911 if I happen to keel over. I really shouldn't joke about that. And my heartfelt sympathies go out to the family that had, to the gentleman who basically passed away over on Friday on the Run Disney 5K. Which just goes to show, it can't happen. What time, Brunette? I don't have the time set up yet. I think it's going to be 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern. That's the time that Jess and I have kind of penciled in. We're both trying to check some things out. Nicole says, I don't have one of them yet, so it definitely means it hasn't been given out yet. Ha, ha, ha. Sounds good. All right. Hope you guys consider that. If you want to be a part of a running team, the cool part is that it's a $39 entry fee. And you will get a medal, which was designed by Give Kids the World alumni. And that money that for your entry fee does go directly to Give Kids the World towards our $500 goal. Chris says he'll be at the actual event throughout the whole event. And And we're going to do, so he's going to do his stream first thing in the morning. And then Justin and I will do our stream later. So I will probably be watching Chris do the event as I sip on some Bob Slaughter's brew by Expedition Roasters. Sorry, Chris. That's just the way it's going to be. Although I very well might, if I can get my wife to, if I can talk my wife into it, I'm probably going to try to do a little warm-up lap by doing some extra time around, walking around our local mall. Don't know if we were going to really feel like it. I'd love it actually if it was nice outside, but it's supposed to, you know, it's Midwest. It's going to get kind of crappy. You know, it's 45 degrees outside and I cut my grass, you know, type of thing. If you guys have any questions or comments, send me a message private message over the Behind Ears Podcast Facebook page, email behindearspodcast@gmail.com, that sort of thing. Mark, you're late. I'm so sorry to hear that. We're actually getting ready to end. This is just not even this is kind of a, not really an after party, but I wanted to at least get everybody's attention while we're talking here. I know you guys are probably missing the after parties. That's okay. I got one kind of coming up here soon. And I've actually got a few people that's scheduled to join me as guests in December, and some new people, some old favorites. It's going to be a lot of fun. Nicole said, we mixed tiki coconut into chocolate blend this weekend and made Mounds flavored coffee. That sounds good. I don't know if, by the way, just another kind of a shameless plug, but I had a serving of the Coco Loco from Expedition Roasters today. Truly, truly enjoyed it. Really, really good. I liked it a lot. It was really good. Mark, I hope you're able to catch the replay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I love you guys. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for just being an awesome audience and big supporters of the show. You guys rock. Thank you for everything that you do to get the word out. I really do. All right. Y'all have a good one. Take care.